welcome to episode 99 of Relics of Orr. I'm your host this evening, Shongaqu, aka Erik Johnson, aka Shongaqu Staimoto Shabushi, and whatever random words I have created to create my character name, because that's what I do. Anyways, this is Relics of Orr, a show about Guild Wars. Actually, not so much Guild Wars, because I think 4 people are playing that. Although, I went on the Reddit today, and there was actually stuff going on. It was amazing. But this is a show about Guild Wars 2, and the Guild Wars community on the whole. So tonight, we are going to be talking about a whole bunch of awesome stuff. To start off with, though, I should probably introduce the people who are going to be on the show with me, because you guys do not want to be looking at this face the entire episode. So joining me, as usual, who is managing to hold his giggles in control, unlike some of my other hosts that I'm looking at right now, is Evie, our crazy thief from Georgia. That's right, I told people what state you live in. They're gonna find you now. How are you this week, Evie?
I'm one of the 4 people that's currently playing Guild Wars.
Congratulations! That's fantastic. We are proud of also joined by Kate. How are you this evening, Kate?
Hi, I am not frozen, so
no, you're not.
Doing better.
It's good.
It's very cold.
Approve.
Wisconsin is it's under a blanket of snow and freezing. It was actually up to 20 degrees today, and I was out and about. Oot and a boot, as the Canadians say, and
boot and a boot and a boat in Nova Scotia.
I was taking my coat off because it's too hot, but it was below freezing, and then I was like, "This is all what Wisconsin is about."
Meanwhile, it's 83 in my room.
I know, right?
In somewhere else that is warm, we also have our good friend Melchior Devonholm. How are you this evening, Melchior?
I was fine up until that intro.
I know, that was an amazing intro. It was like the best intro we have had in months. No, actually.
No, the best intro was when I disappeared.
That's right, and it was like, where's Evie? We don't know. He's clearly being a thief. That was amazing. That was fantastic. Oh, so how are you doing this week, Melchior?
I'm doing good. Holidays coming up. Still gotta get some Christmas shopping done. But game is still going good.
Shopping?
What is that?
Am I like one of the only people that has all their Christmas shopping done before December?
That is correct.
Before December 24th? That's when mine gets done. But we just established that I don't get done with exams until the 20th, and then I'm like out.
Yeah, you kind of have an excuse.
I've been busy getting married. Like,
oh yeah,
that's a thing.
I like
congratulations on getting married, Grybach.
Oh, that happened in October.
Oh well, congratulations, belated. I think
we
actually congratulated you on the show.
And Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving was in the way there.
Yeah. Wow. By the way, Grybach does not actually. Well, he might play an Elementalist, but his main is a Necromancer, which is way cooler than Elementalists. Wash is not on the show this evening, so I have to get in all my Elementalist jokes. What up? How are you doing this evening, Grybach? Have you finished all your Christmas shopping?
2/3, maybe.
Oh.
I've done what I could. We've been busy, man. Like, with a late Thanksgiving and a wedding and a honeymoon and all this yada yada yada. It's hard this year.
And yada yada yada. No, anyways.
And yada yada yada.
All right, well...
There's a joke I really want to make, but
are you going to reference the
shouldn't.
Seinfeld definition of yada yada yada?
No, honeymoon and something being... Never mind.
Okay, thanks, Evie. We appreciate
Please,
keeping it
please, can we get into the game?
What is
Please.
this is what happens when I host with 5 people on the show. We are now straight up the Brady Bunch. Look at that. You can see Marsha in the middle, who is Grybach.
Hey, that's my mom's name.
There we go.
As if this couldn't get any weirder. Someone stop him.
You can't stop me. This is my podcast
5 people is
now.
just too much for your little brain to, like, coordinate.
I went running for like a half hour today. My brain is just straight up shut.
Well, I can do fun things too. I can rebel.
You can, but I can also mute you. Oh no! Melchior! It's okay, he'll come back.
Great.
Welcome
Hi.
back, Melchior. We missed you.
Please, let's get to the game.
Oh, we will. But there's actually
We've
not
got a
like,
whole lot to say about
crazy.
not a whole lot.
There's not a lot of news this week. That's true, and Grybach is right. We covered most of it last week. Wash and you guys did a fantastic job sort of summarizing the various things. But there are lots of little fiddly things and interesting things that have come up. This week we're going to be talking a little bit about some changes on what writers are able to do in the game. We're going to discuss the CDI. We're going to discuss the CDI a lot, probably. That's going to be like the meat and potatoes of our discussion this evening. We are also going to look at, also from the CDI, the pros and cons of time gating, which is very interesting. And also, we're going to discuss the gem store, because some stuff has happened this past week, like today, that is interesting. And no, spoilers, Scarlet did not do it.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty confident, but we'll let Kate get into that. And then we obviously have, because Kate is here, Cast, which is super exciting.
Yay!
Because everyone
I
loves the
practiced
Cast.
in like 3 weeks. I hope it works out.
Well, we should definitely get straight into it, and by straight into it, I mean meander casually towards our first topic, which is some change in how writers are able to do things in Guild Wars 2. It was an interesting post on, was it Reddit? Or was it on the forums? It was on the forums.
It was in the official forums, posted by Matthew Medina, I believe.
What exactly, what were they talking about, Malchior?
The way they've been designing the living story content throughout the beginning of 2013 was that the writers can, like, of course, write their text and stuff like that, but they had no code knowledge. They don't know how to insert the text into an NPC script such that the NPC would fire that script and display the text in the UI to the player. And now the writers, whether by necessity or just improved time in the business, have been given the basic tools and the training to spawn NPCs in the world and assign them basic text scripts. And I think that also includes VO as well, because he was specifically referring to the Tower of Nightmares conclusion content that we just saw. He said, like, Angel McCoy specifically wrote all those scenes with the different NPCs in the camp, including the two Quaggan having the date behind the tent. She spawned all those NPCs, she wrote the scripts, and she wrote the text.
So they're basically slowly turning their writers into directors.
Not necessarily directors, but content creators, which is totally fine. It is a massive improvement, because if you count, the way they've told us is like, you can have anywhere from 10 to 20 people on a Living World team. If each person only had one skill set, a writer, an asset creator, my hand will go somewhere, an artist, a programmer, and a manager. Throw all that into one person now.
Yeah. No, that's actually pretty amazing. And that one of the big things that they mentioned also, and one of the critical things, was the fact that coders were actually some of the people who were scripting all of the NPCs, which means that the coders are always in short supply.
Who would be fixing bugs?
Right, bugs fixing on the Living Story release, able to, expand maybe new systems and stuff and sort of help rig those in. It frees them up to be more productive with the actual coding. I mean, developing the story is highly productive, but Grybach, are there ever enough coders?
No, there's not. But and honestly, I think that also sort of explains why it's taken so long for this to happen. Is not the and they talked about this either in that post or in a different one that I was reading. Is that it's not so much that the writers lacked the ability to do it or the aptitude or even the tools to do it. They haven't added anything to the game, but especially if you're not familiar with concepts like coding and really any specialized real world job, like it's extremely difficult to just dive in without any guidance, and self-teaching yourself something like scripting, especially with like specific company, because ArenaNet and most game companies use a lot of in-house custom built tools, so like you won't be able to find documents on Google about how to use X. So because of all that, it was more of a matter of, like you said, like they were the coders that were doing it, and so they were doing things like bugs. They were fixing bugs. They were making features, and it's not that it was hard to train the writers how to do this. They just didn't have the time, and so now that they can do it, I mean, like if any of you have taken
I have seen one of the tools they utilize for creating. I don't know if it's creating events or just creating NPC scripts of text. I forget what it's called, but they demoed it at Game Developers Conference either last year, 2012, or this year, 2013. And they took like all the code and they gave it like UI functionality. I could literally look at that tool and figure it out within just the 15-30 minutes that they demoed some of its functionality.
Yeah. Like, that's my sort of limited understanding of it, too, is sort of similar to how developers use things like Visual Studio. Like, they have a lot of in-house development dedicated towards making their development tools so that everybody can use them. And that's really smart. Especially for, it's vital for something like what they've been doing with the Living Story, with the goal of being able to like do plug-and-play content that comes in and out of the game fast, is worked on in parallel with tons of teams, tons of different expertise. Like it would be a nightmare to do that in just like a regular source control system, and try and like get all those pieces working without some kind of external tool. Any kind of waterfall methodologies would die. They have to be completely flexible. Yeah.
I don't understand anything about code, but Widechar just let us know that it's called Duo, and all of the content in the game is built on it.
There you go. I remember that name.
That's the name.
And
yes, I saw it.
We salute you because you are one of the folks that has made this
happen. Yeah.
Shout out to you. You guys rock. So that is, I'm very excited about that because it has gotten some of the most positive story response, short of the absolutely incredible dialogue that was in the Queen's Jubilee, the Queen's that opening sequence, Queen's Gauntlet Jubilee thingamabob. That was just fantastic dialogue, and so it's really exciting to see them being able to put that sort of writing in the game. It's pretty fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that, because writing is good, and more story content in game is always exciting. I love
also
that.
Good.
So that doesn't really actually link into the CDI, so I'm just going to do a horrible linking sentence brought to you by Shongaqu. We're going to move into the CDI, because I think that's really all that we can talk about it now. We'll probably review it later when we get back to it, or as it rolls out and see how it's working out. But the CDI is sort of the big thing that has been going on this week on the forums. A lot of stuff, and I would like to point out that they basically took one of the Relics of Orr's like special discussions that we did a few weeks back and turned it into a CDI, so...
Yeah,
Kate totally gets credit for that.
Every time.
It's always 2 months. Always 2 months.
Always 2 months.
The RO prophecy. Which is why we need to talk about free legendaries more.
Precursor crafting, except that I have an educated guess that that's probably...
Alright, so after this, we'll talk about how precursor crafting should be
If precursor crafting wins in February, I swear.
I guarantee you it's going to come in March. I guarantee you. It's going to come in their big content patch in March, so it's not so much a prophecy as it is a self-fulfilling.
Do I need to go get my wizard's robe and put that on? Because I have.
No,
only if you get your hat too.
I only have.
I think let's just dive head first. Amazing. Let's go.
All right, let's dive head first into it. Kate, since you are our prophetess, tell us what are they talking about on the CDI?
So the major topics are horizontal and vertical progression. But as far as I can tell, and I haven't been following this too closely, I've been following Evie and Melchior tweeting about it, which is fascinating. I haven't read through the whole thread. I've been reading some of the red posts. It's largely Ascended Gear. Is the hot button topic of the whole thread. And nothing else is getting much traction, which is unfortunate because there's a lot more things that need addressing. And I agree, Ascended Gear needs addressing. But there is more it's a horizontal and vertical progression that needs addressing, and it's sad that it's not getting there.
Which really tells us that it should be multiple CDIs.
Actually, the interesting thing is, this afternoon, Chris Whiteside came on. He said, "Okay, you guys we've talked about Ascended gear for
33 pages.
33 pages, essentially, with random people saying, but I want to talk about horizontal progression. Sorry, high-pitched voice. I apologize to everyone in existence. I went on and I like sniffling. I want to talk about horizontal progression, but no one wants to. I was so sad.
I wanted to a whole bunch, just respecting the direction of the thread at the moment.
In my defense, my first post might have been about Ascended Armor, but it was only because my entire post was too long for one post alone.
How many posts were you up to? Because I heard you got blocked because you post too much.
That's hilarious.
I may or may not have had to send my minions in there.
Nice. You have minions? That's fantastic.
Yes, I have many minions.
I thought you weren't a necromancer, but that's another story for another day.
These have minions.
Right, you have a guild.
Thieves Guild.
What up? Awesome. Though Chris Whiteside did say that we've pretty much beaten the Ascended Gear discussion to death, which I think a lot of good points have come up in it, which we will discuss. But they are going to move on to horizontal development, I think either later today or tomorrow, if they haven't already shifted over.
Yeah.
So we will be moving on. So if you guys have been waiting to talk about horizontal progression, tune in tomorrow. But Evie, what's been going on with the Ascended Armor discussion? That's sort of been the primary drive of it. What's going on?
The main thing is, at least from what I've seen, more people are looking forward to more availability for Ascended Armor. Less grindiness, for lack of a better term, to obtain not only your first set, but a set for multiple characters. And back on availability of it, World v World basically doesn't get it, so that also. And functionality. A lot of people were asking for stats to be interchangeable in Ascended Armor, much like Legendary.
Honestly, if stats were exchangeable and I could just build an Ascended Armor set and then have that, done. I would build so many Ascended Armor sets. I wouldn't even complain about how much the material cost is.
I'm so scared of that, though. I originally loved the proposal. I really did. Because if we give Ascendeds the same kind of functionality of hot swap stat switching, just like Legendaries, then it becomes kind of a dependent, a liability that you, being a Necromancer, Shongaqu, you understand or are capable to run to some degree every possible necro build that we could ask of you for any given dungeon run.
So, as a necromancer who likes changing things up, I'm cool with that, actually. But there can be some negatives, you think, Malchior. What do you think that most people would not like being able to be... I mean, pugs might start saying, you have to bring well necro support. Go all clerics, you maniac.
Stuff like that. I absolutely love improved flexibility. What's going on?
Evie's laughing at the fact that I used the word clerics.
Clerics? What?
Hey, you need healing power for support necro wells. It's a thing.
No, you don't. Are you kidding me?
Okay, move on.
No, I see what you're saying though, Malchior. Like Guild Wars 1, as much as I love it, it did have a lot of that. Like, all of the LFGs were always like
post-build or GTFO?
Yeah, well, post-build or GTFO, or like we are looking for X build of X and Y classes, like or GTFO, and that is partially, or not partially, it's largely because of the flexibility of builds. Sorry. Like, you could change your build so easily that you didn't really have an excuse to not learn them, other than just not wanting to, or potentially not having a campaign, but that was a lesser problem for the most part. But at the same time, that's also partly a problem because of how many skills there were, that some builds were so much vastly better. So I'm not as concerned about that in Guild Wars 2 as I am as I was in Guild Wars 1, because like there is a moderate amount of build variety, but at the same time a lot of like good builds offer essentially a homogeneous like asset to the team. It's not, most of the time your build isn't different enough that people are going to like demand that you have a certain stat and skill loadout unless they make or change the skills so significantly that there's that much variation in like your output.
Yeah.
Do you think?
And that's just on the flexibility side.
Sure.
The other argument, which I can see from a development and a business standpoint, players will never understand this whatsoever. ArenaNet designed Ascended. They even came out and said this on the CDI. They designed Ascended to serve, I won't say as a time sink, but just a buffer. Alright, they'll take a little time to get, they'll take a time gate, and we can take that into the next topic after we go on to this. Not necessarily a time gate, but a buffer. We need time to like make more stuff. Players are going a heck of a lot faster than we expected. They said they did 100. They did not anticipate the effect of a global trading post. So easy to buy max gear, no effort, anything.
But here's the thing: the whole premise of the MMO Manifesto, all of their advertising pre-release was that there would not be a need for that kind of effort to get max stat gear.
I agree. There is no need, there is no effort. It is in the player's psyche that they feel they got to have this best in slot gear for maximum efficiency.
Hold on. You're misunderstanding me.
Right,
best in slot gear is max stat gear.
And they were,
if there's more numbers, that should have been the top. That should have been what was easy to get. That is what they went by.
They did say several times that their goal was to, you hit 80, you have max stat gear, like in Guild Wars 1, where you hit that and you can just get it. And then you could get the fancier stuff later, like the legendaries. The only problem is, I think what happened is, there was like, you hit your max stat, and then you looked at legendaries. Exotic armor in Guild Wars 2 was not, in Guild Wars 1 was not that hard to get. Like, to be honest, it was not insanely like, I have to grind for the rest of my life to get this. Legendaries, I think what it was is there was too much of a, holy crap, that wall is high. I have to climb that thing?
Yeah, but Ascended gear only exacerbates that problem, because the main component of legendaries is money, and more money, and more money. And Ascended takes a lot of time that you could be either, like if you're doing fractals, you're not really earning that much money compared to any other like avenue of money earning in the game, and which is a whole separate discussion. But like if you're doing fractals for your rings, you're getting non-tradable assets that are going towards Ascended gear. If you are ascending your back piece, you're spending 250 ecto, which in legendaries take 250 ecto, and 250 ecto isn't that cheap for most players. If you're going for armor, it's hundreds and hundreds of gold. If you're going for weapons, it's tens or hundreds of gold. And like you could literally buy a precursor and most of your legendary for basically what it costs you to get a full set of Ascended everything. So that doesn't provide a stepping stone. That actually just adds on top of the wall to get a legendary, unless you just say, I'm ignoring it. And if you ignore it, then that doesn't serve what Malkior was talking about of being a time gate. Like if your goal is to make a time gate for people to have something to do, and you don't make it significant enough for people to have to do it, then it's not a time gate because people won't do it. And if you do make it significant enough that you have to do it, then it's going to make everybody really angry that you did it. So it's that's a really tough spot to be in as a company, and I don't envy them for that.
There's a third option that you neglected to mention. Either you won't do it, it's a heck of a lot of crap to do, or let's go back to just before Ascended. people max out level 80. You get it done and that's it. Look back to Guild Wars 2, pre-November, pre-Fractals. What was there to do when you hit 80? There was World v World, and there was PvP. If you did not enjoy that, sorry.
So Ascended Armor, though, like, what have I done since it? I haven't gotten full Ascended Armor on my characters. I haven't gotten full Ascended Trinkets on my characters. I've played World v World. I've played The Living Story. I've played all the other updates that they've done, and I've basically given a giant middle finger to Ascended items because they make me angry. So I would say that hasn't solved that at all. Because
It has not. It has not gone into the direction they want. What I fear is if we give people any kind of ability to hot swap Ascended items, have anything available they want at any given time, soulbound, account bound, whatever, don't care. It's
So,
like,
do you think
I got my Ascended done.
Yeah.
What's next? Even if it's not another tier, just what's next? When's the next piece of content? Blah,
Right.
blah, blah. Make stuff for me.
So I think that there's a few issues there. Kate, would you think that perhaps why do you think that there seemed to be a lack of quote unquote progression when you hit 80 in Guild Wars 2? Did you find that what were you doing when you hit 80 at with Guild Wars 2 back in November of last year?
I was still doing dungeons. That was the big draw for me at the time was dungeons because it was hard content and I really enjoy difficult group content, and so that's what I was looking for. I was doing it in blues because I was poor, but once I ran the dungeons and I got my exotics from the dungeons because that's my exclusive way of getting exotics because I run a lot of dungeons. There wasn't a whole lot for me to do. I went back to world completion, and by the time I was done with world completion, the living story started rolling out, and I just started. That was the start of my checklist. My living story is out. Better do the things. Better do the things. Better do the things, and that's what I've been doing since. Unfortunately,
it's worked. It's sad, and it's definitely something they need to improve, both in the way it's delivered and in UI. But that's what it's devolved to.
Do the list.
But it has worked. It has kept people concurrent. They can probably look at all their metrics and see, at least during the time there's Living World releases, within those first few days or during that weekend of a new Living World release, concurrency has increased.
What I think is unfortunate is that the Super Adventure Box, which is fantastic content, actually, they talked about this. There is a concurrency drop because what I think has happened is people get to it and they're like, oh, I don't have to do all this stuff. It's not going to be like a gear grind. It's not going to be all this other stuff. And so people just stop and they're like, okay, well, I don't have to log in. And it's unfortunate because I think it does filter out a lot of the really good content. Because people have to take a break at some point. I mean, you have to say, okay, well, I have X things I want to catch up on that are not Guild Wars 2.
Yes.
I would say with regard to that, like, there's I find that a really interesting stat, and I would love to see their stats on Halloween and Winter's Day if Ascended crafting didn't come out with Winter's Day at least, to see if the repeating holidays start getting concurrency drops too. Or if they get like a spike for a day when people log in and go, oh hey, Lion's Arch is all decorated again. Because I know that I'm definitely taking a break this Winter's Day as well, for the most part. I mean, I'm still doing some stuff, but I'm doing it nowhere near as much as I did last year. And I think I have to wonder if part of that is the checklist mentality burning people out so that they're just looking for a patch. Not a patch to blame, but they're looking for a patch that they don't care enough about that they can just take a rest. So, Super Adventure Box may be that for a lot of people.
And another thing with Super Adventure Box, it was like back to school time.
Good point.
And it was heavily jumping puzzle oriented, which is not the biggest. It does sort of split the community because there are those of us that love jumping puzzles, just like, oh my goodness, this is the most fantastic thing. We have several people in Relics of Orr who are just like, I hate jumping puzzles. They are evil. I
don't understand those people.
Back to school, The back to school one had a lot of technical difficulties and a lot of design issues, which I know we've all hashed over, and we don't blame Josh Foreman for that really at all. But that's there were mistakes made that they've learned from. But I know a lot of people in Twit Guild also that even don't like jumping puzzles but loved Super Venture Box 1 that just they just heard us talking about it, us people that like jumping puzzles talking about it, and they looked at it and they just checked out and they just said, no, I can't. I don't have the time or patience to do this one. So it's not even necessarily fully a jumping puzzle thing either. It's some of both. Because Super Venture Box 1 got basically 100% guild participation in Twit Guild.
So I would
even for people that don't like them.
So here's a phrase, linear progression. Would you argue that is what we see with the Living Story? Where it is not vertical progression, it's not horizontal progression, it is progression in a straight line because you cannot go back.
I don't ever consider story as I don't ever consider story as progression. It's not a progressing of my character to either a new level, vertical, or a new flexibility or enhanced functionality, horizontal.
It's game progression, not character.
It's game progression.
Yeah. And okay, now that's an interesting topic that I'd like to add for you guys. So I like to see beyond so how do you, Evie? I'm gonna go to each of you. How do you define since we're discussing this vertical and horizontal progression?
Vertical progression is getting more power, plain and simple.
Okay, what's horizontal progression then?
It's much more varied. It's a form of progression, basically, that doesn't affect functionality.
Okay, it doesn't affect functionality. So is it character-based? Is it... How do you see...
It can be character-based, it can be account-based.
Okay. Kate, how do you define vertical progression?
That's actually it. You nailed it on the head. Vertical progression is anything that involves my character becoming stronger and getting to towards that end game strength where I have hit as strong as I can be. And horizontal progression to me is anything that develops my character and what my character's choices, what my character means in the world, and yeah.
Grybach?
Okay, so to use two similar terms, I would say essentially vertical is strength and horizontal is versatility, which is that you're getting more options. Yeah, see, I knew Malkior was thinking the same thing. I'm glad you asked me first. But it's not that the new options that you're getting are stronger. It lets you do different things. And Malkior's probably going to have the right word for this. I'm kind of blanking right now, but they're essentially parallel. They're not one-upping each other. They're multiple lines that are not directly related to each other, or they can be directly related, but they're options. Just like traits currently are not a horizontal progression system, but they are a horizontal system. Like you have X number of traits, and you divide them however you want, and the different builds are examples of different horizontal sets because you're reallocating your same resources to come up with different builds. And so horizontal progression is the introduction of mechanics that give you more builds, not better builds, basically. Or sort of, you could also call it like breadth versus depth. Depth being more power, you can go deeper, you can go farther, you can go higher, stronger. Breadth meaning that you can cover perhaps a wider variety of situations or builds. But
that's nice. I've never heard the comparison of breadth and depth. It's real good.
Yeah. I thought you liked that one.
Melchior, do you have anything to add to that?
You pretty much hit the nail on the head in the way I think. Vertical equals +1. Horizontal equals kind of...
Plus fish.
I won't say plus... It's not necessarily ×1. It's like plus... 0.1 or not even a plus. You could say it's to a power.
It's hand versus or.
That's another good one. God, you got all the good ones. Horizontal is flexibility and versatility, and at least with regards to mechanics and improving a character's performance, whether it be in combat or any other action in the game. There's also pieces of horizontal progression where your character progresses on an even plane such that there is no power gain, but they look cooler. Aesthetic progression, style progression. And then your story progression could sometimes fit within there, but I consider story a little separate from the character because story also has to tie into the entire game itself.
So here's an odd question, and this is something that I wrote about on the CDI, which means you guys are gonna, Malchior's gonna be like, "You're a moron, Shongaqu, get your sandbox out of my theme park game." Actually, they
Get
all
your
are.
box out of my sand.
All four of them are just gonna be like, "What's going on now?" And I wrote about basically a progression system wherein your character is not gaining necessarily more builds, which, yes, I would love more skills, and I think that will be something that will be talked about a lot in the CDI. What I was looking at is gaining more options to pursue things in-game. Specifically, being able to go out and say, I am a member of the Order of Whispers. I would like to expand what that means in the game, and going to maybe getting a mission from the Order of Whispers, and saying, oh, I'm going to go out, and I'm going to pick like maybe 3 or 4 missions, and as I get higher up with the Order of Whispers, expanding these missions that I can get. And almost like the progression system for the guilds, with the progressively unlocking more and more various guild missions. Do you think that guild missions count as a form of horizontal progression in the game?
Yep.
Ooh.
Mostly. There's a little bit
Yes.
of vertical progression because they add actual rewards, if you can call that vertical. Like monetary. There's money, and there are items that actually are... Like, if Ascended Armor or Ascended Trinkets didn't have higher stats, then no. But since you're getting... Since they've introduced a mechanism for which leveling up your guild's missions levels up the rate at which you acquire better statistical gear, it made it...
But
Yeah.
the actual
Yes.
It
concept...
rode that line.
It's a blurred line. It's definitely
Blurred is a good example.
Do you think that for smaller guilds and for players who are not necessarily always hanging out with a big guild, adding a system like that tied to the orders that encourages them to finish the personal story, or at least get to where they're in an order, would actually be a positive for the game as a whole, and allow them to create open world content, essentially, by saying, I'm a vigil person, and I would like to go hunt this champion giant in Ascalon in the fields outside of Rin.
If it
Sounds like
shared a reward slot with guild missions, yes.
What if it
If
had...
it didn't, then no.
What if it had like a reward system similar to, say, Dungeons, where anyone who participates gets a Vigil token, or a Priory token, or an Order of Whispers token, and then you can go and redeem
it's a completely
it?
new and different system.
But would that still be a form of horizontal progression?
It might be.
The thing is, with progression, at least in my eyes, if it doesn't progress a character, or your account, and whatever you want to call it, the player, specifically, it's not really progression. It's just the game.
Yeah, that's sort of back to what we were talking about with game progression versus character progression. Like, yeah, I think that's a good way of defining it.
Mm-hmm. So if all the new missions and whatnot are all nice and dandy, but what does the player get out of it for actually completing it?
Oh, okay. So you guys generally tie horizontal progression specifically to the character rather than to having additional options in the game. So sandbox or system,
Not necessarily.
So would you say in this CDI it would be reasonable to discuss them adding new systems that allow us to expand what the game can be, or do you think that it should be focused on expanding what our characters can be in the world?
You can discuss.
Kate.
Go ahead.
Kate has
Go
not
for it.
talked that
Back-
much.
K-Time, she's been
Go for it, girl.
You guys all have great ideas, and I agree most. I think the fact that you have to ask that question is indicative of the fact that this CDI is way too broad. We really need it narrowed down. Asking for horizontal and vertical progression at the same time in the same thread is just...
deep or wide.
in
Yeah, go ahead, Kate.
the
You
topic.
talk, and then Eric will sing over you. That's cool. Whatever.
It's cool. I am just used to it. I just talk over him when he does it on Mumbles. So.
Is it
Yeah.
really the CDI? Because I think it's just people have taken it to another level because
They have.
it can be.
But that's sort of the
But
definition.
really, the CDI is supposed to be about rewards.
Sure, but the point is that CDI is covering too broad of a topic for one thread. Like, there's so much to say about both vertical and horizontal progression
Mhm.
that, like, there's so many systems competing for attention that eventually one of them will drown enough others out that you basically didn't even talk about half of the goal
Basically.
of the thread.
Yeah, and I'll tell it to you.
Henceforth, Ascended Armor.
Yeah, I'll tell it to you straight, Eric. They want any kind of discussion possible, of course. But the stuff that's going to have the highest possibility of being acted upon is things that go in line with existing systems, can be detailed through existing UI or very slight UI changes, and I won't say conform, but meet the expectations of existing methodologies, processes, whatever they follow with regards to this is what our game is for the ArenaNet business.
Definitely. That's something everybody should keep in mind when posting is, like, not only would they want to do this, but how feasible would it be for them to do it. Like,
Yeah, post your crazy ideas. Post your crazy ideas, because that's how some of the best brainstorms come about. You take a crazy idea and then they modify it to their constraints, their budget, their methodologies, and their vision. And now super crazy idea exists in the game itself. But
It's just very different.
You just have... even people who aren't aware of all the different stuff that goes into any kind of piece of software.
Yeah.
If you aren't aware of what has to be done, don't feel entitled or butthurt or whatever if you don't get a response or they say, "We like your idea, but we don't feel we can do that right now," or "That would be disruptive to the core of the game." Insert general statement here.
It's true.
And just like one quick thing, because I feel like we're probably about to move on from this, but
We are.
one of the I could feel it. So like cosmetic progression sort of gets wrapped up into horizontal progression, and there is one really big danger with cosmetic progression, and that is that unless you have something like a skin locker, once you settle on the look that you like, you're done progressing, because for the most part you worked your butt off to get it, and coming out with like even when new skins come out that look cool, you just think to yourself, I don't want to obsolete the work that I did, and you get attached, or at least people that care about that type of thing, get attached to their characters looking the way that you've worked hard to make them look. And so there is sort of a fuzzy ceiling on how long you can go on pure cosmetic progression, sort of like what we've seen with like Backpiece Mageddon. Like, you get enough back pieces, and pretty soon you go, I don't care, because I already have my friggin' cool dragon wings, or I've got like this one with the Grenth Ascended back piece. It looks super sweet for my Necro, but I have my Mad King's Memoirs Flaming Book that I don't see that many of anymore, and nobody can get anymore. And for me, that's really cool. And so I am never, and same thing with my my scythe. You know, I got that scythe that first Halloween. I spent literally all of my character's assets to buy it, and I am never going to replace it on my Necro. Not only because I don't think anything else looks as cool, but because I've got a friggin' cool scythe that nobody else has. And
It's amazing.
That's something
yeah,
that both ArenaNet and the players have to keep in mind
yeah,
when
and that's the
considering
thing with, like,
why can't you just make more art? Because the more art you make, then like you make older pieces more significant, which is cool, but you make every subsequent piece less significant.
mm-hmm. And that's the thing that's what's been really frustrating for me on a build perspective, is that in Guild Wars 1 you had both directions going at once. You got more skills, you didn't get more traits, but you got more professions, which essentially gave you more skills for each of your characters, and you got new cosmetic stuff with all the new expansions. And so, like, not only would you every once in a while want to get your cosmetics updated, but it was A, easier to obtain your cosmetics in general, and so you actually didn't feel that bad getting multiple sets of armor, and B, you also were progressing horizontally with your skills, but there is very little actual character horizontal progression in Guild Wars 2 as it stands, except for cosmetic progression, and I feel like that's starting to hit a ceiling for a lot of players, myself included.
Yep.
So, moving on. Excellent point, Buck, that is. We should talk, though, about the current new appearance item that is obtainable in-game, which I will admit, this is one of the first new appearance items in a long time, aside from Ascended Weapons, that is attainable purely from playing the game and not from buying scraps from the cash shop and stuff, so quite excited about that. Kate, what exactly, we've got some issues with time locking, though, and they're talking about this on the CDI. Izzy talked a little bit about it.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No
I'm
idea what
sorry.
you're talking
I
about?
put it in the,
I know.
show notes.
Oh, it was Grybach
No
who put it in
idea.
the show notes. I thought it was Kate. Like, 90% of the time when it's in the show notes, it's like, oh, this was added by Kate. But no, it
Not
was
today.
Grybach. So Grybach.
Well, I don't know what
Just
item
keep
you're talking about.
I
No,
think-
it's the armor appearance items. All of the new armor. The
You mean the
Ascended
Ascended
armor?
gear?
Yeah, the Ascended
Oh.
gear. But it's time locked.
Okay.
See, that was
I-
my transition.
That was your transition
time
into...
time
the
lock
Or we
stuff.
could just start with like the post that Izzy made.
That is. I think that is what he's segueing into.
I was.
Yeah.
I was getting there, but Kate was confused, and I was confused. Rybach, Izzy has talked
Yeah.
a little bit about...
And Live Spartan, thank you for linking it in the chat.
You're a wonderful person, Live Spartan, as
Yeah, he's
usual.
a boss.
He is. He's amazing.
Um,
He's everywhere. So, Grybach, tell us about Izzy's post.
Okay, so basically, this is the type of post that I just love to just sort of, like, this is my posting style personally. Like, if I was a dev, this would be how I would post too, because I love talking about all of the consequences, the pros, the cons, the goals, the consequences of your systems, what you're trying to accomplish, and how you can best accomplish that, and then what is going to be collateral damage by doing that, because there's always collateral damage for everything you do. And so basically he's talking about a really controversial topic for a lot of people, which is the time gating. So that would be your once per day rewards, like the meta chests for different bosses, your fractal chest, and specifically what's gotten a lot of attention because of Ascended armor being on the forefront, the Ascended crafting mats, like your Deldrimor ingots, your Elonian leather, Damascus, Bolt of Damascus, I think.
Mhm.
And the
Thomas
fact that you
Servlet.
can only craft each, there you go.
Bolt of
Damask or
Damask.
whatever. There you go. Thank you. And that you can only craft one of those per day, and that's frustrating for a lot of people. And he does bring up a lot of really interesting points, and I kind of don't want to sound like a jerk, but I feel like a lot of these are really obvious to me, but it kind of makes me shocked at how many people reading those threads and replying don't see them as obvious. So, basically, the idea behind a time gate is that it not only does it restrain the players that have a lot of time, but what is more important than restraining them is that it narrows the gap between those who don't have as much time and those who have a lot of time. It's not so much about keeping the high end from getting to be more. It's more like he had an example of basically, we would rather it be 10 to 100 rather than 10 to 1,000 being the gap, or 10 to 1,000,000. And when you don't have any time gates, the longer the game is alive, the greater the disparity becomes, because you sort of start accumulating wealth almost exponentially, or like when you start, if you keep earning a lot of wealth, then the market will inflate beyond what a new player can attain. And so putting in these time gates helps to keep it so that if you can only play for half an hour a day, you can do the same amount of like big reward type things as somebody that can play 5 hours a day to a limit. I mean, there's enough time gates now that you probably won't be able to hit all of them, but that's the main reason that they use them. And basically, let's see, I'm just trying to do it real quick.
while you're looking at that, I really liked what he said about being able to take stuff out but not put stuff in. The way their philosophy behind adding time gates is, well, we can always take it out, but if we had to put a time gate in, that would be really bad for the game. Not like the players would be upset. It would be difficult to implement, and so we put in these time gates with the thought that if we need to take them out, we will, but we would rather not put them in. I thought that was a really, really important point that is good to keep in mind.
And that's sort of a recurring sentiment, too, with things like World XP was so slow, and it's still slow, but it was so slow before, and they actually said that explicitly when they were talking about the system, like, we know that it's probably going to be too slow for how a lot of people are going to want it, but it's way easier for us to speed it up than it is for us to put the brakes on your progression, and because everybody will riot. Everybody riots when they have something taken away, and they love you when you give them something, and it is definitely a safer policy to err on the side of being a little bit too harsh in the beginning and then lessening up. So,
yeah. Also, with that regard, I want to draw special attention to how Izzy differentiated between, like, one-use time gates, such as dailies, fractal dailies, scale 10, 20, 30, 40, each one has a different daily increment, and repeatable time gates. Like, the fact you can only craft one of those ecto-infused ascended materials per day is pretty dumb. I'll just come out and say it. It's pretty dumb.
And here's why I think it's dumb, because those materials are used to make another material that isn't account bound.
But I actually think that's... see, this is funny, because I'm actually on the opposite side of you guys. I actually think that that's one of the better time gates, because something that a lot of people complain about is that crafting is not worth it at all, and the only reason that crafting can ever be worth it in a market where you don't need it to attain gear is for supply to be drastically lower than demand. And you can make it so that supply is terrible in the game because there's no drops, but if you don't get anything dropped, then you're rioting because you don't have anything. But if it's expensive because it costs time, it costs a real world time increment to do it, then it lets, because you don't have to, yes, it's annoying to have to like craft every day for a month to get your armor, but it also means that you can make money every day from crafting, whereas if you're impatient and just have money, you can just buy your way. People got ascended armor on day one if they wanted to, but
here's the thing though, how much does leather cost right now?
Leather is at a loss to do. You should never sell your ascended leather, and people are being idiots. I've checked. It's like a 40 silver differential where you're losing money because people are dumping leather because they invested too heavily in it.
If you need to make ascended leather items, well, except it works for a lot of other things.
The market will eventually equalize.
That's true. Well,
will it? Because the global market.
Temporarily.
The what? Because here's the reason, is that a lot of people saw leather as a low-hanging fruit, myself included. I actually overinvested in leather before this patch too, and a lot of people are sitting on literally like 100 or 200 ascended leather because it was pretty cheap, but it wasn't being made at a loss. And then this patch came out and the price plummeted and people just went, oh, F, I need to get rid of this as fast as possible, and they're dumping it into the market. You can see the same thing with Gossamer. But with things like Orichalcum and so the Deldrimor and the Spiritwood planks, those were still at a profit literally up until Ascended Armor came out. They were still at a profit even all those months after weapons came out, because eventually what happened was people were actually crafting them instead of just having this big backlog of stuff, and they said, well, if I can't make money doing it, then I'm not going to make it. And if people don't make it and you want to buy it, well,
Yeah, I just feel like the daily constringent with regards to the ascended refinements is too strict. Like,
I found
you get behind just from like, I have to work late at the office tonight, honey, or oh snap, Grandma called. We gotta go to Grandma's house. Any number
That
of
reminds me, I need to make my desk.
any number of world life events, which you can't be devoted to an MMO forever.
Sure.
But one a day for this really simple task. I would expect something like this to be X number of days per week instead of just one each day.
And I think
And
that's a
it's
really
not-
elegant solution for that.
Yeah, that is a
Personally.
really good solution. That's one of the things that's been really frustrating to me in crafting this type of thing is, I think it was in the live stream when Lindsay Murdoch was showing off the new one. She said you'll want to log in every day to craft one of these, and for some reason that's stuck in my head, and I feel really bad because it's kind of taken out of context, and I don't think she meant it that way. But
Oh, I think she.
I do not
absolutely
want
think
to
she
log in every day and make one thing and log off. It's another thing on my checklist of things that I need to do in Guild Wars 2. It's
This is my fake tinfoil hat. I absolutely think that it's designed to do that because without a subscription fee, they need mechanisms to keep player engagement on a day-to-day basis, and the subscription fee is what normally does that.
It
And
is,
they have
but
added
it's-
so many time gates to try and pressure you into doing it. I think
it's
that is
not
absolutely
fun.
exactly
There's
what she
too
meant.
many that are.
You're not
useless.
wrong, but neither is paying every month for a subscription.
I know. It's a catch-22.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things is Melchior muted. I think Melchior muted himself.
Looks like you know-
I did. Wherever you are, Grandma, you add a subscription fee to this game, and
What?
you kill it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No,
that was-
oh yeah, no, I don't think Guild Wars 2.
Good. We're all in agreement.
I mean,
Now,
I don't mind subscription fees, but I don't think Guild Wars 2. It's not designed for it.
no,
Well, but that's what
not
I mean.
all.
Like,
They do not have the content up to keep up with that, because the idea is for even for
I don't know.
for
Have you
subscription-
played World of Warcraft and seen how many people that had subscribed to it for years when they were like,
They have the
release-
content to keep up with it, good sir.
They release content like once every 6 months. They're like, we're gonna release something.
but they
in
still
6
have
months.
content backed
Well,
up. Yeah. Go ahead, Evie.
here's the thing with that though. They preview that content a lot longer before it's actually
It's true.
released.
And it takes
There's a lot
longer
of
to
hype
clear
for
through the
every big
raids.
patch.
Most people don't. I mean, you get maybe like a 50% clear of the raids by the time the next raid comes out. So people are in that content for a long time.
Yeah.
Which,
But
that's-
but to
yeah.
Kate's point, this was actually part of that post. This is the type of stuff I wanted to look up. Is that he listed that as both a pro and a con, and I think that was a very astute point because, as Kate said, that is exactly true. Like if the burden of your daily checklist becomes so great that you finally just start giving it the bird and just say, screw you, I'm not going to do this. Do you know what happens to your retention when you stop doing the things that are there to keep you retained? You quit. Because it's just like a subscription fee. Once you quit the sub fee, you're done. Because you've already made that mental leap of said, it's not worth paying for this content anymore. And you may come back for an expansion, but how many people come back to World of Warcraft for the 1 month free trial of the expansion when it comes out, and then just quit again because they realize, I've already quit this game once, twice, 3 times, and they don't care. And that is definitely a problem when you overburden people with a checklist mentality, is that you have so many checks that you just say, I can't even do it, and then you quit, and nothing brings you back because your retention was founded on a checklist that you don't care about
That's
anymore.
why the number of daily time gates needs to be reduced. Daily achievements as they are right now are fine because they are built into the existing achievement system. They're a great way for extra experience for new-time players. Any number of other good reasons for dailies. They're now supported by the Living Story content. Living Story is added into dailies. Daily achievements are pretty good as they are. They are a short little checklist.
And they should be the only one.
And
So-
they should be the only one.
This is an interesting thing then. Evie, I know you hate crafting. It is your nemesis, your bane, the scourge of your existence. How would you, as someone who is vehemently opposed to the concept of building things in a virtual environment, try and encourage people such as myself who actually enjoy creating artificial goods? How would you encourage that to be actually valuable in the in the world without time gating certain things, so that only certain people who are really in love with crafting make things will actually still make those.
Consumables.
That starts running into the same problem though. If you have too many consumables, people get tired of consumables. Like I don't use food 90% of the game anymore because I just can't be bothered.
I don't use food.
Why do we have to get someone, Mister? I will destroy crafting. Why do we care to get him involved in crafting?
No, I don't want to get him involved in crafting. I just like his view from the outside, usually. It's always interesting.
Okay.
He looks in and he's like, what are these weird people doing? He's like, I need to figure this system out. Because this should be fun, but it's not. Why is it?
Here's the thing, though. When I said consumables, I love how you guys automatically went straight for food. That increase.
Oh,
I was thinking tonics.
I would love you for that. And they already exist.
Yeah, they already exist.
No one uses them.
They don't have any value, and
there it is. No value.
Have no value.
Everything is gold in this game.
So
Give
why
them
is that?
value.
So what would
How?
Costume brawl is already a thing in the game.
So
Make
buy to
it
win
an
costume brawl?
No. Craft to win costume brawl.
Interesting.
But make costume brawl an actual legit game that gives you rewards.
So like actually create like a costume
Snap.
brawl arena, and you participate, and to participate you need tonics, to actually survive. Oh, see, this is why. And Malchior's like, why are we asking Evie about crafting? Because Evie's not dumb.
Wow.
Whoa.
I didn't. That wasn't. Why are we asking him? It's like, what is the goal? All right.
Yeah.
The tinfoil hat is
not what I was
on.
implying, but
The tinfoil hat is on.
But I think what Evie's saying.
I want to hear this from Kate. She reached for the hat. What you got?
What? Oh no, I can't take this off this episode because everything is just like crazy theory crafting things,
What are you gonna say,
and I'm
Greg?
just scared.
So I was going to say, Evie touched on something that is one of my sort of favorite game design concepts that isn't executed very many places, which is essentially the idea of parallel game modes within the same game. Similar to how PvP and not, or SPvP and PvP, or sorry, SPvP and anything not SPvP were not like really related. The idea that you can have parallel game modes that are using the same characters and having like tangential reward paths, that it's interesting that is a way that you can add aspects to the game that will not derail aspects that already work by adding new tangential game modes that
Guild Wars 1.
Exactly. Guild Wars 1. And you'll see that whenever I start talking about like new things.
RATA, HAGVG, each was their own parallel game mode within. Okay, first off, Guild Wars 1 was a PvP game. Get mad, people.
Oh.
I can't even be mad. Prophecies was a PvP tutorial.
Yes, thank you.
I hated Prophecies, but it's true.
Alright, so, but as the game slowly shifted to a PvE game, Factions and Nightfall and Eye of the North, get mad.
Anyway, more Nightfall, Eye of the North.
Yes, true that. Okay. Anyway, as that occurred, still, the parallel modes of RA, TA, HA, GVG not only persisted, they evolved.
Yeah.
Because the skills evolved, that means the game modes evolved. When the game modes evolved, new metas adapted. HA was changed I don't know how many times. Maps have been rotated in and out of HA for Guild Wars 1 since release. HA was changed to 6v6 for like 2 to 3 months. And then ultimately decided, this kind of works, but we had such a good system before, there's no reason to change it.
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing that they have talked about there is having all of these new game modes is splitting the player base. But Do you think that that's an issue with the fact that in SPVP right now, there are more people playing than were consistently logging into Guild Wars 1?
What?
That's because the game is so much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think
More
splitting
people-
the player base is more
Consistently
is an
logging
issue?
into, not bot Guild Wars 1. Like,
Right, no, yeah.
Here's the thing. It's much, and this is me going on a tangent about philosophy. It doesn't even really have to do anything to do with a specific game. It's better to
Speak
have
to us,
people
Evie.
in specific areas that they enjoy than for them to entrench on other areas because they don't have any other option.
or just not do those areas at all. Like to just check out and say, I don't like fractals, so F it, I'm not going to play this game. Like,
Give,
yeah.
give this man a cookie. Give
I've got
Evie a
one. I'll be right
cookie.
back.
Give Gray a medal.
Yeah.
You
And
should
that's
you should never be forced into a game type that you do not enjoy. Whether for okay, Gray, hold on a sec. Whether for
He was
rewards
just saying, hey,
or just kind of progress yourself, you shouldn't be forced into it by some compelling factor of I have to do this to stay competitive, or hell, it's my only option this month.
Oh, like Eevee and crafting Ascended gear.
That is exactly what my complaint about Ascended Gear has been from day one, is that too much of it is gated behind too specific of game modes that wide percentages of the player base don't like any individual one of. And I got shouted down by a lot of people, not on this podcast, but by a lot of people who said, fractals are easy. It's not hard to get dozens and dozens of rings. And I say to them, it's not hard if you do it 150 times, but I don't like doing fractals enough to do them 150 times. But lo and behold, crafting comes out, and all sorts of people come out of the woodwork and go, I hate crafting. F this. Why can't I get my Ascended armor some other way? And I'm like, welcome to the debate.
This goes into another argument, and I believe this just falls into the way they've done releases and their time constraints.
Sure,
You look at, and I think we even discussed this in a previous show.
probably.
The rings came out, 2012 fractals, and then they were slowly added to other modes of the game. Like, people can't know that that's coming. It's invisible. ArenaNet's got it all in their document, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll be fine, we'll add all this stuff within 4 or 6 months, whatever, don't worry about it. But players can't know. And so they feel compelled to go into fractals or do crafting or whatever to get best in slot gear. It's one topic. And then the other is, why do they feel compelled to get best in slot gear anyway when this game is so flippin' easy with even just greens, rares, or exotics?
Yeah. Well, on the back to your first point, I feel like a lot of their introducing it to other parts of the game has been introducing it to laurels and then introducing it a little bit into guild missions. But the problem is that those in and of themselves are
hold
also.
on. Can you get rings in guild missions?
Sorry, what?
Can you get rings in guild
you can get-
missions?
You can get ranks into guild missions.
Rare drop.
No. I mean for the
Actually,
accommodations. I
You
believe.
get
No.
accessories.
You can get
Accessories.
Accessories only,
I'm pretty
I think.
sure they cost more.
Oh.
I think. Let me check.
No.
but I'm
Oh,
pretty
they
sure-
added on.
Accessories cost more than rings in laurels.
I
And
know.
There's also an ecto.
But you
Oh.
can get weapons because somebody in our guild has
Check
picked up
that.
2 weapons from our guild missions.
Oh, that is,
Yeah.
you can buy the insignias.
No,
There's
you can
ascended
get
insignias.
guild weapons as ascended weapons as a drop
All right,
Yeah.
maybe
from
I'm
the
crazy then.
guild missions themselves.
Yes, from
But
the
my
chest.
point though was that a lot of the cross getting has either been absurdly rare drop, which you can't buy off the trading
Or
post, so if
time-gated.
you're not incredibly lucky, it doesn't matter, or in a time gated resource that is heavily time gated. Like laurels are obviously it's 1 per day, 40 per month if you do every daily and the monthly, and that's enough for 1 piece for 1 character, and that takes an effing lot of laurels to get anywhere approaching the time
It's
efficiency.
disgusting.
Yeah. So the problem is, like, it's kind of like saying, you know, X is optional. Well, technically wearing armor at all is optional, but the real question is how efficient is it comparatively?
Yeah.
Like,
Well-
and a lot of these methods that are quote unquote alternatives are so inefficient that they're not real alternatives.
I think one of the issues is basically you can get weapons and armor drops from anywhere that you can get ascended materials. They are on the loot tables, but they are such a low RNG drop, and that's why you can get them off guild missions and that sort of things as rare drops. And I think that they are actually higher on guild missions because what you're saying, we've had 2 people get them, Kate.
Yep.
And in chat, several people have mentioned that they have seen several from guild mission drops. So what it looks like...
Well, people are probably just noticing that because guild missions are experienced by a high concurrency of people. Mm-hmm. And so they all, like, alright, everyone, what'd you get? Link, oh my god, he got an ascended weapon!
Yeah, but we never saw a lot of exotics before. Like, I think we've seen almost more ascended than we see exotics.
That's true,
That's probably not accurate. We probably see about 4 or 5 exotics every week.
The thing is, who links exotics?
It's true.
Unless it's a precursor.
Yeah.
That's also true. And I did just check. You are right. You can't buy rings. I thought you could buy rings from the guild merchants too. But the problem was, of course, again, you're already using a ton of those for earrings. So is it that helpful if you could do it? Well, you can't even do that. So...
Well, I have 50 guild combinations just sitting around, so it'd be nice if I could.
Yeah, I got 69.
Well, I'm extremely pleased with these gems of information you guys have been sharing with me about guild missions, but we should actually move on to talk about other gems that are making people much less happy.
Okay.
I see what you did there.
That was well done.
Alright, so... was it last night, the night before, I don't know, one of these days, they added a new item to the gem store called the Upgrade Extractor. It's 250 per gems for use. What it does is it removes any kind of upgrade from your gear and doesn't destroy the gear, it doesn't destroy the upgrade. You're guaranteed to get it. What it does that I'm really upset about is that you can remove infusions from your Ascended gear. Which is a problem because this is a functionality now available exclusively through the gem store. It is not a functionality available in any other method through the game. I guess you can kind of make an argument that you can turn gold into gems, kind of. I'm not buying it. I'm not okay with this. This is the first time I've ever had to draw the line and say this is a thing that is not okay to be on the gem store.
It would be if it was a convenience thing.
Yes.
But because the functionality is not in the game otherwise, like, say, a NPC in the actual Fractals of the Mist that can be like, oh, hey, here's this thing, you can do this for me and I'll take it out. No. Just no.
And the thing is that, and this... I don't want to call them disingenuous, and I don't want to call them, like, negative, inflammatory terms, but it does sort of beg that question of designing around the gem store rather than the gem store being designed to supplement some nice convenient things. And the infinite continue coin was another example of this. And they said, that the team for monetization is separate from the team for design. And when they're designing things, they're not designing with the assumption that things will be monetized, in influencing their design, which is why I don't want to, necessarily say that there is, but from the casual player's perspective, it sure as heck looks like it does. And, when you look at how friggin' hard Super Adventure Box 2 was, especially with the poor communication of really you should go in with more than one person when you could do the first one with only one person faster, most likely. And then on top of that, adding the tribulation mode that was just out to murder you. And then also reducing the rate drastically at which you could get baubles and the bubble baubles, or the bauble bubbles, which turn into continue coins. They nerfed acquisition, they made the game effing hard, and then they made it, and then they put in an infinite
the third part really pissed me off, because it's if you... That is the only reason the continue coin, had to be made or something. Because acquisition was hurt so hard. There would be no way to gain enough lives to do trib mode without the infinite continue coin.
You could if you were sacrificing your skins. because like one bauble bubble got you a couple continue coins, which got you 5 lives.
No
but that's
one's
a terrible.
gonna do that.
That's exactly, and whether or not that was a design influence, and I'm gonna believe them when they say it's not. It still makes us question that, and it makes us as players really upset when we feel like we're getting taken advantage of by having things yanked out. It feels like yanked out of the game, and we talked about this with the infusion change. Like the fact that once you put it into your item, it's gone, and you have to build all the way up to that twice more before you can go up +1. Like if you put your 5 into your item, you need to make 2 more +5s. You can't just keep upgrading your item.
I call that a technical limit.
So that's
there's literally no way they could have made that kind of decision of if they put it in their armor, now they have to like start back at square one. That makes absolutely no sense. And then this goes into the other argument I had. I'm in agreement with all 3 of y'all, including Erik, because he hasn't had to talk yet. Because I agree something in the gem store should only be convenience and not necessity.
This is actually the first time I believe we have a gem store item that actually is more valuable for the gem cost than it is an in-game thing, because to get
depends.
Well, you're holding on to if you're holding on to a 5, what's a 5 cost in game?
It depends.
Well, it depends. It literally it depends on how smart the player is. Here's the thing.
Assume that it's me.
70 fractal relics get you a +5 infusion.
That you can't stack with the other infusions, though.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you can't, really?
The type that stack with each other are completely separate.
Yep.
That's retarded!
No kidding!
So there you go. So how much is a +5 stacked up? How much gold is that? That's a lot of gold.
Here,
to the marketplace.
Spidey it.
Mm-hmm.
So stacked up, you're referring to like someone that has literally built the +5 tradable version and is on the trading post right now.
Because there are 2 kinds of infusions. There's like the versatile versus
versatile. That's what I wear. I got nothing but them.
Chat room's got my back. It's 20 gold.
It's 20 gold for a +5. Or so then there's the other ones that are the incremental ones that no, +5 is only 3 gold.
It's like 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
I sold them the other day.
Okay,
yeah, I'm
so
looking
that's
at it right
not
now.
Bad chat.
terrible.
No, but 2 +5s only gives you a +6. And that is where previously when you would get an item that was infused and had an inherent +5, that now became a slot that only accepts the type that stacks with itself to make higher level ones. Those don't accept the versatile in that slot. That's like a stacking infusion slot.
You sure?
Yeah,
Yes.
I am positive.
Yeah, that is how that works.
If they're going to be gating higher,
No.
Wait.
They accept the versatile. I'm pretty sure because I have
accept it in the versatile slot. Like
I have
2
45
slots now.
AR.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, because you
If
already
you had one
infused
from
and
before, if you had one from before, it stayed in there.
They plugged
But
in a
if you
5.
get a new one, you have to stick a stackable thing in there.
Yeah. And if you want
That
to
sucks.
increase it, and if you want to increase it, you need to overwrite whatever was in that stacking slot, and you can't pull it back out to like recombine it.
So now you have to. So now the only way to do that is the gem store.
Okay, I'm in agreement with all of y'all now. That is terrible.
That was what was so frustrating about it. It was like they'd already done a system like of the magic find with a stacking, like you consume this item and it increases your magic find stat, and that stat gets harder and harder to increase the more that you consume. And if they're gonna make fractal levels account bound, I see no reason why they shouldn't have made agony just become an account bound stat. But I mean, again, ascended armor. I guess that's how you sell ascended stuff, is that it has special stat slots that prevent you from going into fractals. But the way that works, where imagine if luck was like an item that you had
prevent you from going into higher fractals.
Oh,
On 30 to 40 AR, you can handle up to scale 30 fractals, and perhaps even beyond. I haven't played kind of the new levels yet because I've been lazy. Very easily.
Sure.
Very, very easily.
But
Look at it.
yeah, the fact that imagine how terrible luck would have been if you had to combine luck essences, and the only way to change your account's luck was to consume one single item that just set your new luck value, and then you couldn't utilize that. You had to rebuild up to that value again because that's how these infusions work. Is that once you slot it in, you can't get it back out, and you have to build all the way back up to that twice in order to get it to go one higher, and then you have to build up to that again to go one higher. And it incentivizes you to basically hold out and grind at the minimum value of AR that you can manage at whatever fractal level you want until you get as high as you can stand of this stackable infusion. Put it in your armor and then say, F it, I'm never doing it again. Or
I feel the solution has to be develop the tech where if you have a +3 infusion in your coat, you have a +3 infusion in your bag, you stack it on the coat, it turns to a +4.
That's what I was thinking it should have been the whole time. But
I know,
they've added
and
an
that's
item
what I
that
thought
doesn't
it
count.
would. See, that's what I thought it would have been the whole time, even when they did their preview thing. And then it's like, oh nope, if you put it in, you lose it. You gotta start back at square one, make another +3.
Yeah, it is bonkers,
Mhm.
and that's why Kate and I guess everybody is upset by this.
Because
item.
then you wouldn't need this upgrade extractor thing. Because right now the only purpose I see it serving is people yanking out runes 100% to sell for profit, or yanking out these infusions 100% to either one sell for profit or to enhance their own progression.
And even that's not.
Here's the thing with runes.
I think Evie's got it. Runes
Even
you can
with
get
runes-
the Black Lion salvage kit
Yeah.
purely for infusions,
And-
which is infuriating.
Oh wait, yeah, Black Lion's like 100% on upgrades, ain't it?
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
But it doesn't pull infusions.
Hey, what's going on with you? Get a hold of that commerce team.
Yeah. Did we lose Evie? Oh, no, you're just okay. You're just still.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say about that. It's just, I haven't had a problem with the gem store before. There's been a few things that are
Kind of
controversial.
iffy.
Yeah,
It
but
literally
Skinned
It's-
armor with fire.
it was cosmetics. I didn't like it, but it was okay. I let it pass. I let the infinite
Yeah,
continue coin pass. There
don't
was
want to
obtainable
buy it.
ways. You can farm gold and get it. I don't like the idea that there's a functionality only available through the gem store. That's not okay.
It sounds like, because even I'm was confused at how the existing functionality of Ascended and stacking of blah works. Whoever made this item on their commerce gem store team, whatever, just had no idea what they were making.
This has been referencing data miners because now this thing exists. It has been in the data mines for a long time,
Long time.
and people have been looking at it going, "What's that thing doing in there? That's a bit weird." But no one's really sort of gone after it because I think most people assume that they would be like, well, they're going to add some sort of like pristine or perfect salvage kit, that you can get in game somehow and go out and, maybe it'll drop from dailies, or maybe you'll be able to pay like 500 gold or something for this thing.
Yeah.
But
Or
it-
maybe if they had
yeah.
some sort of crazy visual upgrade slot that they added. Like if they made the making your Ascended back piece sparkly, that they had, if that became like some sort of crazy sparkle back slot, and they wanted, whatever, fine, maybe, yeah, I know, right? It's great, it's a working title. But if,
Sparkle slot.
maybe if they wanted to do something like that, maybe you could have a gem store item that would let you take it out without having to transmute it onto something and blow up your item or whatever.
I'm stunned, because what's the gem cost for this thing is 300 gems?
250.
250 for one use.
250.
Alright. How many gems are Black Lion salvage kit again?
I have no idea. I've never bought one.
600?
I want to say 300. No,
Really?
you can
I
get
thought it was higher.
multiple for $10.
Okay. Well, anyway, Black Lion salvage kit, you can, or at least at one point, when I remember it, because I used to jump for freaking joy when I got it, get them from dailies.
You can.
Why isn't this thing there?
I went
My
for
transmutation crystals, for that matter.
I went for a dry spell of probably 6 months without getting one from a daily, and then I got 3 in the last month, so they're still there.
Why isn't this thing there?
They're still there.
Why isn't this thing there?
Maybe it will be.
Maybe
Who
it's
knows?
not. It's only been out for a day. Or maybe it is. It's only been out for a day.
Find it, Reddit! Find it!
So, and to respond to chat room, who's discussing the fact that the one-use armor from the store,
That's frustrating too.
I think
That's
that's
frustrating,
more
too.
of a mechanics issue. There, I think they don't know where they're gonna put it in the interface. To be honest, I agree with
Make
the-
an NPC. They
You
did
know-
in Guild Wars 1.
Yep.
What's
no, an
one-use
NPC
armor?
Yeah, no, see, it's one use, and I would like it to be, you go to the person, and you're like, I bought this, can I get more? So that
We
would be
have the
amazing.
Hall of Monuments.
Yeah.
We have the technology.
Yes.
Yes, we're
We're talking about gem
We
store.
can build
gem
it,
store
we
skins
have
you
the
can only build on
technology,
one character.
and the history.
That's the thing, is we have the tech in the game, we've got Hall of Monuments, we have the, your achievement panel, which, I mean, just stick that pack into your achievement panel when you buy it. Don't give us an achievement, but just stick it in there. That is doable. I think, maybe.
Well,
Is it
and-
doable,
and-
Wine Char? I don't know.
You know what would be really sick?
I'm gonna tell you.
Putting it in housing. Putting your armors that you can skin into housing, just like the Hall of Monuments in Guild Wars 1, where you got to put your pimp armor on statues of your character in your own personal instance, and you could be like, hey friends, come into my instance and look how much more of a no-life loser I am than you. You know, like,
That-
No, it's how
people would
hardcore.
eat that
Hardcore.
up. I know.
I
Dave
would.
Cordova.
I would just be like, yeah,
Yeah.
like that.
We said no
Okay.
eating of the mics.
Oh, sorry. I apologize to everyone. I am a horrible person. Was that really loud?
No, it was actually volume level, so but
good.
yes to Gray. I gotta figure out which way
Oh
to point it.
snap! We just got something from Widechar. Wait until March. So can we start
Dun,
calling
dun,
March the
dun.
Jesus patch?
No.
It didn't really work
it'll
out
be
for
great.
SWOTOR.
I don't know about this. We can talk about it in post-show, but I want to hear about
Okay.
the Jesus patch of Slotor in post-show.
He
feel a little
probably can't say
sacrilegious
too
saying
much,
that.
or he's witnessing his job.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's interesting. So just wait until March. Okay, we will.
I'm gonna call March Skin Closet Precursor Crafting Edge of the Mist
And the
Bam.
Death of Scarlet.
No, it would be
Let's talk about
fun.
Death of Scarlet.
and Death of Scarlet, all combined.
Patch.
Yeah, actually,
March patch
that
patch.
sounds. Yeah, Edge might be pushing it. I don't know.
It's got a ways to go.
The only thing that's missing is new PvP game types.
Oh, also Tengu. And Domain of It wins. March.
So March, we just everything.
March is everything. We know
No
living
one
story,
cares out.
living story teams got their stuff together. So
They're
When
taking
they're
like
jump-
December off or something.
no, it's our party. It's our party patch. Scarlet's dead. Release all the things.
The Tengu come out. They're like, "Oh, so we see that you killed Scarlet. You guys are not as incompetent as we had thought. Watching her run around like that. She even tried to get us to join the Quaggan Scale Union group."
Keep trying. Keep trying.
Union group,
No.
yes.
There were some amazing posts on Reddit of like potential alliances. You guys should go find them because they are
The best
hilarious.
No. Didn't we say this? The Quagganites.
Oh, that's right, the Quaggan
Yes.
Marganites.
Are you kidding? Quaganites would be the best.
That would be
That
amazing.
would be so
Quite
sick.
nice.
It would be Cole's favorite patch ever because it would be glowing pink Quaggans.
Bait kill.
He would actually be really excited because he's like, I can kill all of them? That's amazing.
All right,
Anyways.
we should probably start talking about end of
We
the year
should.
state of the game.
Yeah, I was
Yes,
gonna say,
so-
it's getting pretty late.
It is. Wow. Holy smokes, what is this? A 2-hour show almost?
I don't even care because it's
Started.
all been fantastic discussion.
Alright, so we were going to move on to the end of the year state of the game discussion. They have been doing a review on their Guild Wars Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Guild Wars 2. Kate, what have they been saying?
Well, they tried to do one, and it technical difficulties assailed them, unfortunately.
Hey, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Ruby, switch to Open Broadcaster.
Well, they
And
did a
use
new one.
VC.
They did another one today.
Oh, how
Yeah,
did the
yeah,
new
they
one
ra-
go, Grybach?
They
Oh, I
wrapped
didn't
it-
see the new one.
Yep, go for it.
I mean, it was.
What was your...
There's only so much that they can talk about, without. I mean, it's as with all dev interactions. There's only so much they can or will talk about. So I mean, I would recommend watching it if you enjoy watching the devs talk about the things that they found interesting. Rather, like you're not really going to get a ton of insight into the development process. I don't think they talked about. Let's see. What is your favorite thing that you do in game? What is your favorite bug? Are there office rivalries between Living World teams? The answer is not really. It's mostly just their art teams like to mess with each other's whiteboards.
Quick pause. With that, they did say that the teams are not concrete, and people float between teams,
Sure.
which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
very good, because different people have different skill sets. I mean,
And things they find interesting. for that matter.
Josh Foreman is a level designer who worked on the Living World for Super Adventure Box. So, something that's not Super Adventure Box, where can they use his skills to make amazing platforming or out-of-the-box level design?
Safer Sanctum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what was your favorite things, some of which got answers, some of which were kind of just like really generic or things that you'd kind of
Mhm.
and yeah, it was okay. I feel like there's only so much they can say because, as you know, it's their product and they are a company, so there's only so much they can say that they were disappointed with, and then when they're talking about things they were excited with, like, yeah, I mean,
Even as a company, they're just expressing their individual opinions, and these are some of the bigger people in the company. They don't mind saying, "Yeah, we learned our lesson here." One of them was like, "I was really bummed I couldn't get like the scavenger hunt content into Tower of Nightmares because of time constraints." Other person's like, "I wanted to make the back piece for Tower of Nightmares better because it didn't actually match well with the shoulders and the gloves." They understand where little improvements can be made. They might make some comment on grand sweeping systems, but overall it's just a look at what do you guys enjoy, what's your favorite, how do you think, and just a little bit of where to improve for next year.
So it was
But
actually a
no concrete
retrospective.
details.
So unlike the
Mm-hmm.
blog post, it actually functioned as a review.
Oh snap! Oh snap! Shots fired.
shots fired.
Sorry.
And that's why you will never get a job at ArenaNet.
I know, but that's okay. I have a job. I'm paid well. Anyways, moving on to some additional stuff. We're going to look forward now, because that is what we asked Twitter to do. And Twitter, oh my goodness, there were so many like, boo-doo-doop, boo-doo-doop. Kate was sitting there and it was going, citizens, 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 citizens.
You're welcome for
It
that.
was
by the way.
like
Is that literally your tweet notification?
yeah. Yep.
We
My-
have,
I'm
They're really exciting.
stunned.
we have it on SoundCloud. If you'd like, we can send you the link.
Yeah, I don't
No.
have it out public because I don't want to like distribute it. But if you want
Just wow.
a citizen's ringtone, we'll
Hey, listen, citizens!
We're going to combine Navi and the most annoying Azura ever.
Hey, listen.
So, okay, Kate, what did Twitter have to say? Do you have Twitter in front of you? I have Twitter in front of me.
I will in a second. I asked Twitter 2 questions actually, which is
Okay.
why it's going to be really confusing.
So before
the
we
majority...
get to the 2 questions then, I'm going to really quick update us. John J. Ryan, one of the awesome writers at ArenaNet, told us on Twitter that they are not in fact coding. They might be doing some scripting, but there's no actual hard coding going on. Which, scripting kinda counts. Ish.
You type letters and things happen.
Scripting is taking like a code structure or bits of pieces of code already built and either doing copy pasta or saying
technically so is coding.
Using UI to handle what would be tedious manual typing.
So
That's true. They're probably using almost all UI.
Okay, so it's what you see
here's
is what
an
you
analogy
get
for you.
coding.
Hey, friends.
You're WYSIWYGing us?
Yes, I'm WYSIWYGing you.
Here's an analogy for you. For everyone that plays Minecraft,
Finish your analogy.
What? For anyone that plays Minecraft or any game where you Legos. Coding would be going out, buying plastic, melting it, and making a Lego out of it and using it to build it. Scripting is getting a box of Legos and building something out of it.
That's a decent analogy.
Would you agree, Grybach, as the resident coder?
I would say that there's a lot of sort of vagueness of boundaries and when people are talking about it, especially when they're non-coders. Like, I'm hacking, or, I'm coding. Like,
fun.
a lot of scripting is essentially the same as coding. It's just that it's technically different because it's not necessarily compiled, or it's not,
It's not as robust necessarily.
Yeah, but I mean, but people can also say scripting to talk about basically just using a UI and clicking some buttons, and it behind the scenes is auto filling in the scripting for you, which that's not really coding, and it's kind of not scripting, but it's also using a scripting tool, so it's kind of
it's using a scripting tool, like Whitechar said that Duo tool that they demonstrated in GDC that I brought up. That's what they use for all their event creation, content creation.
I will say
it's like using Dreamweaver isn't using HTML unless you're actually writing the HTML also.
Oh God!
You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like that's you can. I know. I just hurt your brain a little bit there.
I saw some what you see is what you get, some WYSIWYG coding from the 80s at my work. It was amazing. It was really terrifying. I was like, yeah, I'm not touching that sucker. I'm out.
Okay, friends. I enjoy all of your coding talk very much, even though I don't understand a word of it. But I do want to finish the show, and it's approaching 10 o'clock, so we're going to do this real quick.
All right,
You guys live on the West Coast.
Kick this fungal wall. She's Midwest.
I asked everyone on Twitter where they envisioned Guild Wars 2 being a year from now, or what they hoped Guild Wars 2 would look like a year from now. By far, the largest response was, oh God, please, anything about an expansion. It can be out, it can be around being out, but oh God, please, let us expand our boundaries. But other than that...
Horizontal progression.
Yeah, that kind of too. A revamped raw story mode was one that was tossed around. Additional races, progressing towards a new continent, fighting an elder dragon. Yeah. That's what people hope Guild Wars is like a year from now. Personally, my goals or my hopes for the next year is that I'll have met characters that I care about. I don't really consider any of these characters ones that I'll take with me. Like, there's ones from Guild Wars, Menlo, Alessia, was that her name? The female monk that I have stories about that I just want to punch in the gut. She's stuck with me. She wasn't,
really
my favorite, but
inappropriate
she
joke
stuck
about
with
her.
me. Okay, well, we have jokes about her too. Yeah, I want characters that stick with me for a long time that I'm gonna want to remember. I want to have traveled a significant distance across Tyria. I don't want to have gone to an island and say, "Hey, we expanded." No, I want to I want to broaden my horizons as well.
Far Shiver Peaks, the Blood Legion homelands.
I don't care where. I don't care where. I just want to go outside of my confined things. Anyway, my last wish list for December, by December of next year, I want to have poked a dragon in the eye. I don't care if I kill it. I don't care. I want to have some story involved with it, and I want to get up close and personal to it, preferably poking it in the eye. I will accept punching out a tooth. That's my wish list for December next year.
Grybach, what would you like to see in a year?
I'm with the expansion crowd for the most part. I don't need an expansion to be out at the end of next year. I need there to be something on the horizon talking about it, because or again, I've harped on this a lot, but they either need, for me, an expansion or to actually legitimately prove that they can put out what I consider an expansion's worth of content via Living Story, which we haven't seen, in my opinion. So either one of those, like, it doesn't need to be out next year, but if they're next December saying we're coming out with an expansion and it's going to be in 4 months or 5 months, whatever, that would be awesome for me, because eventually, and looping back into what we talked about this show, like, the checklist weight is already growing too much on my back, and I need something that I really legitimately am looking forward to, and a lot of that is going to be a lot more skills and or new professions and or new races and absolutely more maps that are permanent. And, you know, what does all that spell? Expansion. So
Yeah.
that is my biggest thing.
Evie, what would you like to see? Evie.
I'm one of those weird people that's just like, well, it doesn't have to be an expansion, but it could be. As to what the actual thing would entail, I want to see new mechanics in, like, combat, just the way you fight. Say this enemy, it works this way. Get creative. You know, jumping to avoid this. You can't dodge this, but you can avoid it this other way, and just new things. Difficult group content that is not fractals, because gated nonsense, that is nonsense. That requires, no. Doesn't have to be raids, but it could be. More weapons, which in turn is more skills. Particularly, not necessarily new weapons, but expanding what each profession currently has.
That'd be very exciting.
And diversifying just the way builds, armor, and weapons look, as well as function.
Oh, I had one more.
And lastly, guild content.
Yes, Grybach.
Oh, I guess this sort of falls under what the other sub-question was what needs to be done to keep the game healthy. And I said a serious look at the ratios of time, effort, and or skill versus reward. It's something that we harp on all the time, you know, about this takes forever and doesn't give you jack squat, so not only am I not incentivized to do it in the game, it makes me actively feel like I'm wasting time to do it. I think that's something that they're getting better at, and I'd just like to see it refined more. I mean, I think fractals need better rewards, and not necessarily like exclusive stats, but like the amount of gold and items you get are a joke, kind of similar to the World v World meta. Like, you could have gotten the World v World meta's rewards in like 10 minutes of meta dragon events and, you know, 15 champs. Like, so that's something that I would like to see improved next year.
Really quick with Tinfoil Hat. So this is reading between lines. Apparently, like, Angel McCoy and who else is the lead writer for the Living Story?
Bobby?
I also have. I think Bobby. Yeah, I think Bobby Stein is. Is it Bobby Stein? That's the
That
lead
sounds
writer?
right.
So, interesting thing. Who are the lore masters of Guild Wars 2? Well, that's Jeff Grubb and Rhys Osby. Rhys Osby's been writing a book. Jeff Grubb. If you're ArenaNet,
The book's done.
yeah, the book's done. So if you're ArenaNet, are you going to take two of your arguably most accomplished and fantastic writers and stick them on a shelf and turn them into managers and be like, you need to manage the writers and make them all better? No. You're going to have them doing something, but they haven't written anything for Guild Wars 2 since the game came out. What are they writing?
I would guess they're writing just big, overarching policies or descriptions of lore that literally serves as a guide for any of the lead writers or maybe even lower writers to utilize when writing for different pieces of content. They
That's their
might.
strength. They create universes very well.
They might very, very slim chance be working on writing the overall branching lore into Cantha or Alona, whatever plans for Guild Wars 2, but I highly doubt it.
So that is why I'm wearing my tinfoil hat, and I am going to say they are writing the expansion pack. Because they are not running the living story. Maybe?
I hope so.
We'll see. All right, but
I want to say one more quick thing before we go into
Yes,
Cast
Kate.
Cast, which
You
I
got
I never got to say my thing, so say your thing and I'll say my thing.
Okay, Widechar, while we were talking about things we wanted to see by next December, Widechar mentioned something about new game modes, and I said, well, PvP, and he goes, no, otherwise. Bum, bum, bum. No, there's not any other PvE game modes I really want. What I really want in PvP is something I can do with more than 5 players. I want to play with more than 5 people.
Go to World v.
and I want
World.
it not open world. That's my... And World v. World is not acceptable because I have friends that are not on my
Go to a
server.
custom arena.
I don't want to PvP my friends. I just want to play with them, not
so
against them.
before we put Grybot
I
to
don't.
sleep,
I don't
Melchior,
want.
I'm just
we're
stretching.
actually-
No, I'm just
you're
stretching. I'm
just
waiting on
stretching,
Melchior.
but you look like you're about to sleep because we've all been sitting here for 2 hours. So Melchior, in 30 seconds, tell us where you would like to see Guild Wars 2 in a year. Go.
Improved horizontal progression systems, new skills, improved mechanics on existing skills. Seriously, charge skills were a thing in the original design of the game. They existed on the initial release of the warrior profession, and they were kicked out. You could add charge skills back across each profession on several of their auto attacks or their weapon skills or stuff, and that would give them improved functionality. I see he's counting me, and I do not
30
care.
seconds! That was actually fantastic. I would love to see charge skills. Would you also like to see an expansion pack?
I'm indifferent on the issue. I would rather see developing the core game.
Get out.
I will leave. I will leave. Okay, here's what. Here's why. They impressed me with the Tower of Nightmares. They really did. So where they plan to take the story, which ultimately leads into where they plan to take us, I'll leave that up to them. I want to improve the mechanics.
All right. There we go. So, Kate, what's our next segment called? Because I can't say it.
This segment is called Cast the podcast within the podcast, the cast about podcasts of other podcasts, and the style of cast of other podcasts. Mostly correct. This week on Cast, Erik is putting together a Minion Master March where they're just going to get a party of 5 Minion Masters together, and they're going to run a Raw. It's zombies v zombies. I'm looking forward to that. I wish I could participate, but I will unfortunately be out of the country doing other things.
Wait, when is it? Sorry.
That is this Saturday morning, I believe.
Okay.
I
All right,
think
so
it's
I'm gonna
either
be out of it
Saturday
too,
morning
then.
or afternoon. I'm still
Are you
working
going to live
on
stream
that.
it or record it?
I will definitely be probably live streaming it, and then I will cut highlights.
Okay, excellent.
'Cause-
I'm looking forward to that.
Now that's
I'm
going to
watching
feature
I'm watching the
Bob.
full bod.
That's going to feature Bob, or however you pronounce his name, from hopefully he'll be able to make it. We've been negotiating. From the forums and also sitting on a couch podcast. He is a fantastic Minion Master, which is saying something because Minion Masters are generally terrible. So if he's good at it, he's probably pretty good at the game. We are trying to get Zombify. I don't know if that's going to work out because his schedule is going to be a bit difficult. But we're also looking. Grybach probably won't be able to make it, sadly. But
gonna
we
be
do
out of
have
town.
several volunteers. I believe Lady Varen has volunteered. Opt from the Twit Guild has volunteered as well. So we'll be keeping you guys updated via Twitter. So follow us at Relics of Orr. You can also check us out on our website, relicsoforr.com. You can follow all of these wonderful hosts at various places. My title says at Shongaqu, but I almost never tweet there. It's almost always at Relics of Orr. You can follow Kate at Damn Violas, those cursed miniature violins.
I
You
love
can
yours.
follow Grybach at King Street Grybach, or KINGSTGREIBACH.
It could be like King Saint Greybot.
Yeah, that's what we thought, but he corrected us when he
We were
first showed
wrong.
up. We were so wrong. You can
Oh,
follow
man.
our fantastic thief, Evie, at Evenus. And, last but not least, Melchior Devonholm can be followed at Melchior Devon. Because apparently Devonholm doesn't fit in the Twitter name handle. So definitely check us out at relicsofwar.com. We will be putting this up. We are working on getting sound audio-only podcasts so that you can listen in your car, which will hopefully work well, even though we do have some slapstick visual humor here. And beyond that, check
will
us
fill
out.
your berries. Wait, what?
Check us out on the forums. Relicsofwar.com does have forums. Kate does groom them, much like a crazed Shih Tzu. She makes sure that they do not get overfull of spam.
I thought I was awkward.
Sam. Anyway, it's also important to mention that this is going to be our last episode for 2 weeks. Unfortunately, we're going on
Yes.
hiatus for the break.
Unfortunately,
Christmas Eve is
happened.
next Tuesday, and
Ah!
New Year's
Oh, wait,
is the
no, I
Tuesday
love
after that. So we will be back in 3 Tuesdays. There are no scheduled events for us in that time, but you may see streams or one-off videos in between there.
Melchior
promise.
would
Especially
like to...
because Evie's getting better internet tomorrow.
Yay, Evie! Melchior, you seem like you
Melchior's
want to share
muted.
something from ZOS, the preeminent Northern Shiver Peaks Guild. Behind Relics of Orr, because we're awesome.
You made it
You're
yourself.
muted.
Also, you've muted yourself.
Okay, anyway, the good news in 2014, Relics hits episode 100.
That is
Oh,
correct.
yeah. This is episode 99.
The next
We're
episode
old.
will be episode 100. We will try and have special guests, and it should be super exciting. You may even see the legendary Cole, who started all of this 3 long time ago, back in the
The
day.
Invisible Man himself.
The podcast is as old
Fourscore
as
and- Wait, what?
Relics of Orr is as old as 2007.
Oh yeah, we have been around forever.
Yes.
All right, guys, we are going to sign out, maybe answer some questions of the post show. But for now, thank you all for watching, and we will see you guys in game. Peace.